Welcome to How to Build a Staffing Analysis in ES Optimizer. In order to perform an accurate staffing analysis, it is very important that the data within ES Optimizer is as close to actual in terms of what you're doing at your facility as possible, because the data from your database is what is going to create your staffing requirement. So let's go see how this works. We're going to navigate to the Special Functions menu, and we're going to select Staffing Analysis. There's a sample staffing analysis here built for 2008, for example. You notice there are three tabs. There is the Master tab, which includes some basic facility information, between case and discharge figures, as well as notations about where the data came from. Going back to the master parameters file, you notice here, this is all of the data, and this is all manually built. So for example, you'll see that everything gets added manually. Totals, minutes, etc. So all of this will have come from the reports, which we're going to review now. The first report you're going to want to run is the Facility Financial Data Sheet. It's the very first report once you open a staffing analysis. We're going to print that and take a look at it. This is the Facility Financial Data Sheet. It's fairly self-explanatory. It explains each item. Please supply the figures in those categories, like when it asks for average monthly discharges, you're going to take that figure and divide it by 30 or 31 to come up with your daily figure, but you're going to want to average that over 6 months. Another helpful area where there's often questions is the lock-in hours per week, and a lock-in hour is you have an agreement with that department to provide them service irregardless of your staffing levels. So a common one is the emergency room is typically staffed by at least one individual, let's say in this case one individual for each shift 7 days a week. So that's 4.2 FTEs for a total of 168 hours per week. So the figure here would be 168. The only other thing that's maybe would slide through is your other duties. You're going to want to list the number of hours that you spend per week that are charged to environmental services for performing things like room setups, departmental moves, linen hauling, for example, and actually that's covered under linen pickup and delivery, but anything that's not a bulk waste or biohazard or recycling, rolling stock, supply room duty, things like that. So basically your moves, your room setups, any special functions, things like that your department has to take care of, you want to capture those hours so that they can be reported on your staffing analysis. So the next step to create staffing is you're going to run all of these reports. You're going to run the Housekeeper 1 time summary, and you're typically going to run it for all open rooms, which means all the rooms that are closed you don't want. So you want open rooms, and then you're going to want to simply select which facilities are you looking for staffing from. In this case, we're going to hold our control key down and we're going to select both facilities, and we're going to just simply select print. And that will give us a summary of all of the Housekeeper 1 jobs and what kind of time is involved. So as you can see here, for a Housekeeper 1, 5 days per week in this database right now, here's the total minutes. So this figure, 2,090 minutes, would go on our staffing as a Housekeeper 1 function for 5 days a week. And you're going to repeat that process for 6 days per week and 7 days per week on page 2. So for example, if we were going to build a staffing, we would Add a new staffing analysis, give it a name, select save, and then start building using the data from our reports. So that first one was 2,091 minutes per day, 5 days per week. And then use the green check mark to save that figure, and then you continue to add your next item, and you repeat that process until everything is built from the Housekeeper 1 time summary. So we're going to return back to the reports and show you the Housekeeper 2 time summary. Likewise, we're going to use the same selection criteria. We're going to want everything that is open, and we're going to use the building's main and west tower in our sample database. So here's our Housekeeper 2 time summary. Same thing here. It has totals for 5 days per week, 6 days per week, and 7 days per week. We're going to note those totals, and then those are going to be placed in our staffing again, just as example. If we look at our 2008 budget here, here's your Housekeeper 2, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week, and you can see here's their totals. And then you guessed it, it's going to continue with, actually in this case, we're going to do some policing next, so let's look at that report. So the next report, we're going to skip periodic for just a second. The policing time summary, same thing goes again. We want only areas that are open, and we want our main building and west tower facilities included in the staffing levels. So here's our policing time summary. You know, often you're going to have way more frequency. So for example, 21 is typically something that's done once per shift, 7 days per week. So 21 times per week total, not uncommon. Same thing with even 52, right, or 26. So you can take all of these totals from this policing summary, and you note that it doesn't really show that many in our 2008 sample budget. We just have one policing figure here, and we just total it up. This was for a sample database, but and then we do have some additional emergency department staffing, which has been added here. And then the last is going to be the floor projects, things like that, which is our Housekeeper 3. So we're going to go take a look at that report. And that data is obtained from here, the periodic time summary. So again, our selection criteria is going to be exactly the same. We're going to want all open areas, and we are going to want the main building in the west tower. All right, and the only difference here is that these are annual minutes per year. So you can see that carpet cleaning would be entered as 79,360 minutes. There is no decimal places, so you will need to round that up. And you notice that you can summarize these categories. Like for example, ceramic tile can be included with hard non-finished floor, and as well as concrete, because all of those floors are going to be scrubbed. So you can save a little bit of data entry by just entering them as hard and non-finished floors, and then just separate carpet and raised computer and things like that that must be separated. So you can see that we can go down here and we look at our projects. So here's our carpeted floor care. When that was added, it was added as annual minutes because that's the way the report produces it. So you just simply leave zeros in the minutes per day and the frequency per week column, okay? And it will still equate that to FTEs. You notice here, if you do want to update something, just simply update it, and then you can use the green check mark to update it, or you can remove the selection if it was made in error using the red X. So let's just update. Okay. And finally, the last thing is any duties that are not database driven, like waste management, room setups, etc., can be added using the other field. So you notice if you select here and you say other, they just simply typed in waste management, and they basically have 2.6 FTEs that are handling trash or waste for their facilities. So that's where that figure came from. And then the meeting setups and other duties is simply from the financial data sheet, which included other duties, and they just entered those minutes here. So we're going to undo that. And so what basically happens is now, once that information is complete and you've entered your between case cleaning from your financial data sheet, so your L&D cases, the OR cases that you staff, the number of discharges that you staff per day, how long you allow to clean them, how many days per week you do discharges, and then finally any notations about where the data came from or anything that you're going to want to recall specific to this staffing, you're going to want to make a note in there and then click Save. So once that's all done, then you can scroll up and hit Print Report, and you can select the Staffing Requirement Report. And here you go. So here's our Staffing Requirement Report. It lists some basic information. You notice it starts breaking down the daily housekeepers that are needed, the number of housekeeper twos that are going to be needed, the number of FTEs for the projects and floor care, the number of FTEs for the other duties such as waste management and meetings and setups, and then our variable items, which are typically volume based, so your L&D cases, your OR cases, and your discharge FTEs, therefore listed as a variable total. Then it summarizes by listing both the fixed and the variable together as 49.61 FTEs. It adds in the non-productive break time, giving you a total of 52.71 FTEs, and then adds 15% for non-productive. This is sick, vacation, holiday, and paid time off. So that subtotal now is 60 FTEs, and then there are 5 in management, which gives you a total of 65.61 FTEs. So you can see how all of the data from your facility is quickly and easily summarized into a simple 2-page report, leaving no doubt as to the number of FTEs that it's required to perform the functions at the frequency levels that were stated in the database. And again, that's why we mentioned it was so very important that that data is up to date and accurate, so that your staffing will be up to date and accurate as well. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us at Smart Facility Software at 1-800-260-8665 and select option 2 for technical support. Thank you very much for using ES Optimizer, and have a great day.